Hi, and thank you for joining me for today's process video. And today I'm going back to December 2023 and documenting a photo of my family outside the Tavern on the Green in New York City when we were there for New Year. So I'm starting by creating a watercolour background using my mini brayer and iced spruce distress oxide ink. So I've just watered that down, and you can see I'm just rolling it onto the background just to create a little bit of texture. I thought I'd gone out wide enough with this. You'll see as the video goes on, I hadn't, but I do solve that problem. So just smushed a little bit more ink down onto my mat there, and then used a small paintbrush to splatter it onto the page. And now I'm just going to map my photo while that dries. It doesn't take long when you're using a brayer. It sort of pushes the water into the paper, so it really doesn't take that long to dry. The ink splatters obviously will take a little bit longer. So I've just grabbed some white cardstock, and I'm creating that little border around the edge of the photo, and now I'm going to create the strips that the photo is going to sit on. So I pulled out my Christmas stash for this one. It was just after Christmas. This photo was taken on the 30th of December, but the whole of the tavern was decorated for Christmas, so it's capturing the mood and feel of the photo really. So as I say, just pulling out random scraps. I've gone for the greens and reds, which are the dominant colours in the photo, and then just that tan, just for a little bit of contrast. So the strips are around 1¼ 1½ inches. I'm not measuring, I'm just going for it really. And then I liked this navy blue paper because Ross has got a navy blue coat on, and even though James's hoodie is black, it sort of reads navy in the photo. So there are the strips all cut down, and then I'm just going to trim them down to the same size. So you can see I just held them up against the paper to work out what length I want them to go. And then I'm going to offset them against each other and have them up and down on the page. So I was just messing around because I realised as soon as I put those strips down that I was covering all the ink. So I was wondering whether to turn the paper around and have the ink at the other side, but I didn't want the ink going right the way to the edges, and it didn't work. So for now, I'm just going to stick the strips down, see how it all looks once they're roughed up on the edges using my Tim Holtz edge distresser and overlapping one another to see just how much you can and can't see. So it's just going to take me a little while to do this. So as you can see, I'm just using that edge distresser, roughing up the long edges quite roughly this time, curling up the paper, and then just using one line of tape as centrally as I possibly can. I'm not brilliant with an ATG gun. It tends to go where it wants to go, but I'm trying to get that tape in the centre of the line, just so that I can curl up those edges. And you can see that red piece, I've left a little gap in the hope that you'll be able to see the inking. That gap disappears shortly because I do overlap another piece, but the thought was there. So here's that beautiful tan or craft piece, just a couple more to go on. You can see I decided to leave that brighter green to the left. There aren't really any bright green tones in this photo. I suppose there are in the bushes underneath the canopy, but it just didn't need to be added. I had enough paper strips in the end, so I chose to leave that one off. So just tucking this one underneath here, and then that final red is actually going to overlap the other red. I would normally try and keep the reds apart to spread the colour out, but I really like the way that looked there. So I think because it's a paler, almost like a washed out red, isn't it? I decided to layer that over the top of that gap that I'd purposefully left. So you can see almost all of the ink has been covered up, so I will remedy that as I mentioned shortly. For now, I just wanted to work out where to put the photo and what paper to mat it onto. I thought about using this navy, and I was about to. You can see I add the glue, and then I think I really want to bring in some of my black diagonal stripes, so I run off and get that, and that's what I'm going to use as the mat. I'm definitely hoarding this paper as it gets lower. Probably still got about 6 pieces left, so it's going to last me a lifetime. But you know, when you really love and cherish something, it's hard sometimes to get it on the page, isn't it? So I'm going to raise that photo up onto foam pads just because there's so much texture in the background and I don't want to flatten that out too much. So by adding the foam pads, it sort of relieves the pressure against those papers to flatten. I've stuck them a little bit too far down, so I was just moving them up there. These are the Sticks 25mm foam pads. They're absolutely fantastic. You see me using them for a plethora of things, and they're very easy to trim down as well if you need smaller bits of foam. So just using my T-square to get that straight, and then here's where I'm going to remedy the issue with the ink. So just coming back in with my roller and just sort of placing it really. I can roll down this side, but on the shorter side I don't want it going right to the very edge. So you'll see how I just angle my roller and very carefully place the ink down. Now I have watered it down a little bit more than the first time I'd done it, so I'm just building up layers just to create a little bit of depth of colour. And you won't notice at the end it does look like it's all part of the original piece, so I was really pleased with how this turned out. So just spending a little time making sure that I do that. Now these are my infinity dies from Hero Arts, and they're circles. So I've layered up 2 circles on my die cutting machine with black card to create these lovely hoops. They're bigger than the hole reinforcer hoops that I often use, and I just fancied using them on a page. And then this sticker, I've almost finished this sticker sheet, the Simple Story sticker sheet, and I just thought that would work really nicely. And I love that reindeer head. I think I've been coveting that as well, so decided to pop that at the top of the page. I'm trying to be really decisive on this layout and just putting things down. I just wanted to create something tonight. I'm going away for the weekend. You'll see this on Sunday. I'm currently voicing over on Friday morning before I leave, and so I wanted to get this created and up on my channel before I left. So sometimes it's fun just to do it. And I had this idea for these hoops, so really wanted to have a play with that, and using strips as a mat behind my photo is a definite favourite go-to, whether it's horizontal or vertical like this. So I'm just gluing little dots of those hoops down just so that they fly free again on the page and create more dimension. And then I'm coming in with my favourite alphabets from Bella Boulevard, and these are the Florence alphabets, and I'm going to write down Tavern on the Green, New York City 2023. I wanted to use black originally, but I didn't have the right letters and I couldn't be bothered going and getting some more, so I decided to come in with this craft, and I'm actually really pleased that I did, because it's lighter than the black. The black would have been quite heavy as the whole title, and it matches really nicely with the tan on the page, the craft on the page, and sort of brings that over to the right hand side. But I did want to use red for NYC and then black for the date, just for a little bit of difference, and also to bring in those other colours that I've got on the page. So there's NYC, and then in with the black numbers. There are quite a few numbers on these sheets. It's a blessing and a curse. I don't use that many numbers, and I get frustrated and wish they'd give us more letters. But then when I do dates like this, I'm really grateful that we've got all those numbers. So you can see how empty that sticker sheet is now. I've just used the candy cane to the right of the title. It was very blocky, the title, so I just wanted to drag that out to the right and down below. So I've got a couple of star stickers underneath the NYC from that 12 by 12 sticker sheet. And then these are some puffy stickers from Vicky Bootin. I'm just creating a little holly sprig using the gold and black there. But in fact, I do end up moving that over to the next to the candy cane. I wanted something next to that and couldn't really find anything else suitable. So that's going to go there. And I will find a third item to add with those stars. I do like clusters of 3. Here are those hole reinforcer pieces, and I'm just adding a few black ones here. I do come back and add a few more. Or is this where I'm adding? Yeah, this is where I'm adding a few more, I think. And then I find this sticker on the sticker sheet that just says Jingle Bells, and I really wanted to get that on my page, so I'm just adding that to that corner of the photo because there's nothing else really there. So that sort of fills that in nicely. And then this beautiful poinsettia, bringing in the gold down at the bottom. I'm going to add my roller date stamp underneath my title, and then of course my journaling, just saying that this was my bucket list item and I was so happy to be there. It definitely didn't disappoint. So now the journaling's down, I just want to add a few more little bits and pieces. I've added a black heart above the title just to bring that black across the right of the page again, and then these gorgeous brads. I'm dotting a few around the page, and then I found one with a little bow that I'm going to add to that cluster of stars that I mentioned underneath the title. There we go. And then the last thing to do now is to add some gold splatters. So just covering my photo, still managed to get some paint on there, but I can just easily wipe it off afterwards. So just watering down the watercolour and adding the splatters tight to the edges of the strips, and that's the layout done. Thank you so much for joining me. I do hope I've inspired you. Pull out that Christmas stash, get creating with it, ready for the new season. I'll see you again soon. Thanks again. Bye.